Welcome everyone to PomFazzSations, the EPL show. It's returned. If I'm Pom, that means I need a Faz, and we just make up a station. I've got the legend that is the West Ham man himself, Mr. Faz. How are we doing?
Good, mate. Very good. Pointy end of the season now. So, both ends of the table, European competitions at the really hot stage, and then the Euros around the corner. I mean, this is what, the best sport in the world. So let's not muck around here. Let's get on with it.
Mate, spot on. And we're at that stage, aren't we, now, where everything is going to be kind of decided now. And we're at, like you said, the pointy end of the season. Now, Faz, what's your vibe? Who's winning this from here?
I think Man City. I just proven form. I think the fairy tale of Liverpool in Klopp's final season is there. But I just feel like their injuries or their squad depth is really starting to take a hit. Man City, proven form. Then you've got Arsenal, who, I mean, again, like they look really good, but then they come up against a top team in Bayern and probably don't perform how they should. For me, it's flip of the coin, but I'm just landing on City at this point.
It's tight, isn't it? I mean, I can't remember a Premier League season where we've had three teams in with a chance. Like, usually you have the two, but it looks like it's going to go right down to the wire, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's about looking at upcoming fixtures. And I made the comment on SEN on Sunday saying that if Liverpool got the 3 points against United, I actually can't see them losing another game. And I could see them going the whole way. But because they slipped up, got that draw, it really opened it up all of a sudden, because I think Liverpool do have a very favourable fixture remaining games. But, I mean, all three teams would probably back themselves to win every game from here. So, who's going to slip up? I think it's generally a case of who's going to slip up, not who's going to win it, because you would argue in the remaining 7-8 games, they will all be favourites in every single one of their games. Who can pull a filthy draw or whatever?
It's tough, isn't it? Because you've got three teams, haven't you? I mean, you've got Arsenal, the young pretenders, haven't you? The young pretenders. Everyone's going to wait for them to get their first draw and say they've choked, or it's the beginning of the choke. You've got Man City who always do it. And then you've obviously, like you say, you've got that fairy tale. I mean, I'm inclined, and I hate to say it, I think it's City. I just think that experience, they ain't going to make a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I like the language coming out of the City camp. Pep's been really big. You want the title, come and take it. Those boys be rocking up to training every day, rocking up to every game saying, we're the best. You want it, you come and take it. Yeah, they're sitting third, but they know that they're the best. And I think belief is such a powerful thing. And, for Arsenal, they've been here before. They were in an unlosable position last season and somehow lost it. That, don't kid yourself, that will be creeping into a few of their heads. They go 1-0 down in a game, the game coming up against Wolves. You go 1-0 down away to Wolves. Those, demons start creeping in. They got Chelsea, then Tottenham. What a big fortnight that is. Then they've got they could finish with Everton, who might need to win to survive. I mean, that's tasty, but I think the City with the experience of knowing that they can do it, knowing that they have done it before, and Arsenal with that whole can we hold on? They want a bigger gap than what they've got right now.
Mate, I mean, it's really finely poisoned it. Like, if you make a mistake now, potentially it's over, isn't it? I mean, we saw, and any side can beat any side. I think that should be so understated. Like, you saw United against Liverpool, right? United were outplayed. Let's be honest. I'm a United fan. I watched that game and still today don't know quite how we got a point. But that's going to happen towards the end of the season as well. You are going to play teams where they just don't want to lose. And if you don't take your chances, and I think Arsenal are probably the form team at the moment.
Oh, absolutely.
But I agree with you, Faz. There's going to be them question marks as the season gets close to the end and every game becomes a must-win. You're going to have your Villa going 1-0 up. Or you're going to have that moment like the Kobe Manu brilliance against Liverpool where it shouldn't happen, but it does. And it takes character, doesn't it, to come back? And I feel like City have character in abundance.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at their matches, once again, all these teams are going to go favourite in every one of their games. But, Luton, should win that. Chelsea at home, Brighton away, Forest away. There's nothing. They finished with West Ham. Hopefully, for City's sake, West Ham's season is pretty much over. They'll know whether they're in a European spot or not, and that could be an easy finish. Who knows? But again, like you wouldn't bet against them. That's for sure. And you talk about what you said before. Any slip up from here it could be all she wrote, and you just point that finger at Liverpool and say, well, you drop the points against United. They've obviously got their Merseyside derby coming up. West Ham away, which is not easy. Villa away. I mean, that's to finish with Villa away. That's huge. That's huge. Because Villa were probably looking for a Champions League spot. So,
Villa could dictate the title because they play 2 out of the 3.
Well, Tottenham play all 3, I'm pretty sure as well. So Villa and Tottenham have got their hands firmly involved in this title race. But equally, both of them are fighting for that 4th position. It's madness. You talk about the top 3, the fights for that Champions League spot is madness. And then we haven't even spoken about, but the other end of the table is madness as well. You've got to say it's one of the best seasons. That clog in the middle as well for the Europa League spot. You've got United, West Ham, Newcastle, Chelsea, Brighton. Wolves are probably out of it now, but you've got those 6 teams separated by under 2 games. I mean, that's madness.
Mate, I agree with you. I mean, it's so tight, and we've got Kingslayer. Who you backing, Kingslayer? You say City won't win. Who you going with? Chills, he's brushing up on his knowledge of football. Welcome to you. And got Peter. We'll talk about the points deduction in a minute, but you did mention the other end of the table, and we've got a subject matter on that tonight, but let's talk about it. The Everton, they've pulled themselves away from relegation. They've been hit with the second charge, which has brought them back into that scrap. I think we can safely say Sheffield United and Burnley, they're down.
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think they're gone. But that race now has got mighty tasty. Luton, Forest, Everton, and you'd say Brentford, unless they win again, they're probably on the verge of being dragged down. These are going to be interesting games when the top 3, Liverpool, Everton, that's a game you could lose.
Well, absolutely. And you look at, Brentford would be happy that they've got that 4 points, but 4 points quickly turns into 3 points, quickly turns into 1 point. Should the other teams get results? And speaking from a man with much experience from relegation dogfights, I actually don't know who's going to survive. Everton keep pulling away, but they keep being deducted points. They should be nowhere near that spot, but they've got the deducted points. They're there. I love the way Luton play. If I were to, I'd love them to survive. And you got to remember, Notts Forest every chance they get in a bit of strife as well. So Luton might Steve Bradbury their way to survival.
Well, if I was City, that's the game I probably don't want. Like right now, in between Europe, in between this title race, like that has sneaky draw written all over it.
Absolutely, because they play good football, but they're annoying. Because they're that team like Man City think, oh, we'll get a goal, but then Luton will get a goal. And it's like, well, you guys just fuck off. Like, that's what they'll be thinking. We'll just go away. We're trying to win the title here, but they'll keep going. They'll keep going. They'll keep going. That's got us, you said, like a cheeky 89th minute equaliser to Luton written all over it.
It's going to be an interesting one. And we talked about the points deductions. And, I think this is a really important point with this, because they've been hit with the second charge. And I know everyone's going to say, what about City? I'm like Kingslayer. I'm a United fan, so I fucking hate Liverpool. And I hate City. And I don't particularly like Arsenal as well. Do you know what I mean? So, these are the three worst teams that they could be fighting for the title. But I'm never going to stick up with City. The charges, when you're talking triple figures, mental that we're even having this conversation. But I will stick up for City in a way that it's obvious the FA are going to punish Everton when it was 2 charges. That's a lot easier to punish quickly, because City have been adamant they're going to use the whole power of the Qatari embassy to fight these charges.
Yeah. So your point is exactly there. Like, no one's excusing the 115 odd charges or whatever it is. What it's saying is it's just simple logic. 1 charge, easy to sort. 1 charge, easy to sort. So Everton, 2 charges, easy to sort out. Did you do it? Didn't you do it? Let's have a look at the books. But 115 charges, no one is disputing that they're not guilty, right? Like, let's not dispute that. But 115 charges, that takes time. You can't just wake up one morning and be like, hey, we're just going to flick the switch and kick his down to the 5th division or whatever. It takes a lot of time. And to quote the great movie about Facebook, where he says, lawyer up assholes, because that's exactly what Man City have done. They have lawyered up, and you can't, it's the way that the system works. You can't punish whilst it's still in dispute. Man City, they could fight this for years. This could take years before they're proven anything. They'll keep fighting and fighting. You can't deduct points or do anything until it's over. So I don't think this is going away anytime soon. If I had to guess what would happen, this season will be fine. It'll go through. And if anything's going to happen, it'll be from next season onwards. I don't think anything's going to happen now. But like you said, people who don't understand or keep arguing that, well, if it's happening to Everton, why can't it happen to City? It's so simple. This sheer amount of charges, it's like a traffic infringement is easier to sort out than a murder charge. And that's what we're dealing with. Everton have committed a traffic infringement, and Man City have murdered, mass murdered. So you can't just, throw it in there and,
It's interesting as well, because they're talking about having a luxury tax, which worries me, because that would say to me they ain't getting charged. For that conversation to happen, that they're already looking at the loophole. And I was listening to the official wording that fine will be excessive, but then they dropped will help grassroots football. I was like, here we go.
Yeah, this luxury tax, it's been bubbling away, and it's kind of just been like filtered out by whoever and started to grow. The logic of it makes sense in the fact of, hey, let the big boys spend as much as they want, but they're going to prop up the lower leagues or the lower teams. I still don't know how that looks, how that would work. Yeah, to me that it makes no sense, because if Man City were to sign, let's say, I don't know, let's say West Ham. If Man City were to sign West Ham's 3 best players for squillions of pounds, how would then sending a luxury tax to another team benefit anyone? Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't. To me, it seems like a dodgy way out of saying we don't want to punish the big clubs. We still want to get this Super League or whatever they're talking about. We don't want to punish the big clubs. So the best way to do it is, hey, we'll fine you or tax you. And look at us. Look how good we are. We're going to rebuild a stadium for Crew Alexander or something like that. Like it, yeah.
Yeah, well, the talk is it's going to be whatever you are over the fine plus a percentage based on what bracket you are. So the example they used on Sky Sports the other day was if you're 200 million over, right, that would be high. So then there'd be a 25% surcharge. But then they were quick to say this will go into the non-leagues, the academies of non-league football, and raise the profile. So as naughty as the big clubs are, it's benefiting grassroots football. And think of the kids kicking footballs on the park.
Oh, yeah, and that's fine, and that's a good selling point. But for me, it all just looks. This is just going to stop mid-table clubs spending, because teams like your West Hams, like your Evertons, Brighton, even Wolves, they can't afford to spend, keep up with the market where players are worth 30, 40 million a leg, right? They can't keep up with that market in the first place. Should they go over, they can't afford that tax. They can't afford to pay that. You'd almost rather, some of these clubs, and I mean this dead set, you'd almost rather the points deduction for some of these mid-table clubs. That could send clubs broke. You think about Everton. If you said, we'll give you your points back, but we're going to tax you hundreds of millions of pounds, they'd go into administration. So you'd almost rather your points. So it's going to cause less spending for the middle tier clubs, which means once again that gap is going to get bigger and bigger. Before you know it, break away. Oh, look, we got what we wanted in the Super League. Like, it just, I don't know. It just, to me, it's very, very. I know I sound like a bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I just don't like it.
It's definitely we don't want to ban City, isn't it? I'm with you. It feels like they have come up with an option that punishes people without punishing City.
Yeah. Yes. No. Exactly right. And City pay the bills. Unfortunately, we've spoken about this before. They pay the bills. You know,
mate.
It's
sad. It's sad.
Yeah, it is. And I think, you know, there is the other school of thought, and I lean on this a little bit, saying, well, if you've got rich owners, why shouldn't you be able to spend the money? Like, do you know what I mean? If you've got the money, you should be able to spend it. But yeah, I don't know, maybe.
To answer Chill's question as well, yeah, once you're found guilty, that could be game week 1, game week 40. Do you know what I mean? It could be freaking next year as well. Do you know what I mean?
It could happen anytime. Yeah. You woke up one morning and all of a sudden Everton had points deducted. It just came out of nowhere.
Do you know what I mean? You could be. And like Tim says, they should be relegated. Like, I've heard this argument, but I think City have such a financial pull that all it would do is take away a promotion from 3 teams in 3 different years, because I reckon they'd retain their players.
Oh, absolutely. The problem with relegating Man City is you're effectively going to ruin that league and the league, and it's going to ruin. And I know I'm not a gambler personally, so this doesn't affect me, but I know the money involved in gambling, the money involved in fantasy, and all that stuff like that. It's going to completely skew that, because you put $1 billion on Man City to win the league, and they'll win it, because they'll retain their players, because they'll know they'll just go wherever you put them, bang, 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 promotion, straight in. Relegating them on the surface, sounds like a great idea, but you're going to ruin the whole system by doing that. The whole system. Instead of ruining one league, you're going to ruin every single league. So I don't know if that's the answer.
I do remember Percy Pigs. Not my cup of tea, but I do remember them. I mean, the only way you're going to stop it, and like, I think this is like logical. If you ban spending in the EPL, let's just say you ban it. And let's say we create something archaic like the AFL salary cap. All you're going to do is see teams in Spain, Italy, monopolize that, because it would only work if every football club in the world said, right, okay, let's subscribe to a hard cap. Let's subscribe. Real Madrid say, let's do it. Paris Saint-Germain say, let's do it. And then, yes, you might get level playing field. But I'm with Faz. I'm going to be totally honest. Do you know what I mean? Really honest about it. If United had Qatari owners, would I give a shit? No. Right. I am honest enough. I am honest enough to say, though, as much as I hate City, if you've got it, you're spending it, man.
Absolutely. So I think that the question for me is, do people have an issue with their transfer fees or their wage bill? Because they're two very different things. Because I actually think their transfer fees, I don't think they've spent an exorbitant amount of money transfer fee wise, but it's their wage bill. I think that that's the big issue. You know, when you can put someone on £450,000 a week, where I'll use West Ham, who 7th on the table, their highest paid players on 125,000 a week. That gap is too big. I got no issues players leaving 125,000 and get 150,000. Great, no worries. But when you've got a Lucas Paquetá at West Ham, no love for West Ham. He's Brazilian, whatever. Great player on 125, 130 grand a week. And then Man City say, hey, we'll pay your release clause, which might be 50 or 60 million. That's not a lot of money in today's market. Great, get him. But we'll chuck you on 400 grand a week. To me, that's where the issue is. Not so much the transfer fees. I mean, it's Chelsea are the ones who have the issue with transfer fees. They pay stupid money. And Arsenal as well, to be honest. They pay stupid money for players. But it's the wage bill at Man City is the issue for me.
Mate, I'm with you. I mean, it's an interesting thing because me and my mate were discussing this the other day, right? And he actually sent me the official 5-year bank balance of each club, right? And leading the way with transfer spends over the last 5 years is, I don't think it surprises everyone, but this is net spend. So profit loss taken into account. Chelsea, 784 million, right?
Yep.
Right? That is insane, right? Second, and I actually am disgusted, is United, 694. Like, that's money well spent to finish 6th. Arsenal were 3rd, right, over the last 5 years. Like, City are way down on that list, coming in at 9th, bro. Like, Tottenham have spent more money over the last 5 years. You know what I mean? Newcastle have spent, like, that is insane in itself.
Yeah, no, exactly right, and that's the point I'm making. They are shrewd with their money because they're able to turn heads with their wages. So they're able to convince players to sign with them if a club accepts the transfer fee. Convince players to sign them because they can pay the wages. But it's also, you know, they do sell players as well. I mean, people are acting like that they don't have turnover. They do. They sell players. They sell players for good money too. It's not Man City's fault that Saudi Arabia are all of a sudden, forking out squillions for players. I feel like I'm defending them. I'm not defending them. I'm just trying to add a balanced argument for it's not as black and white as it seems, because you use that table. Like, if I'm Man City's lawyers, I'm using that table when I'm coming in and say, hey, we haven't spent that much. Look at this. Newcastle will be on a watch very, very soon. Don't you worry about that. Newcastle will be on a massive watch because they they're new to this game with having all this money.
Mate, I agree. Mate, I agree, and I think it's going to be a very interesting one. I mean, what do you think the punishment should be? If you were the FA, and chat, you let me know. What would your punishment be?
For me, honestly, as I said, I don't think relegating them is the right move. I don't mind the points deductions, to be honest. I'd love for next season Man City to start on minus 15 points. And if they won't get relegated because they'll win enough games, but they won't win the league. They won't make Champions League. That's the punishment, not playing big European competitions. So start on minus 10, minus 15 points. Relegation is not going to do any good to the championship, to any league they go into. So for me, yeah, I actually don't mind the points deductions personally.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'd like to see? An actual transfer ban. Like an actual like, you know, we saw like Barcelona, they negated it. Like they negated it with these dodgy loans where we'll pay you 500 million in 3 years, promise. Like they negated that. I would like to see you have no ins for 3 years.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that. And to be honest, I think they should do that more often. I think a lot of clubs actually should do that upon themselves and say, back your youth academy as well. Like, why are all these English clubs throwing out their youth academies? Back them. Don't sign any players. Just use your youth academy, and surely that's where you want to be, and how you end up. I do like the idea that Tim said no cups. I don't mind that. Hey, you're in the league next season, the Premier League, but you're not playing in the League Cup. You're not playing in the FA Cup, and you're not going to Europe. You just got your 38 games. Start them on a minus points. I don't mind that as well, because then it gives a few of the other.
You know what? The Man United in me though, just relegation. Like, I mean, I remember them playing in Division fucking 3. Like, like the good old days. Do you know what I mean? The good old days where they were fucking way down. They were good days then. But I mean, no, I agree. I mean, yeah, I like that, Tim. Like, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, and it's probably one that come next season we've got a luxury tax in, and they've signed Mbappe out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've seen this movie before, so it'll be an interesting one. But the next subject, controversial here, is the Saka incident. So, for those who weren't aware, Champions League, we probably had the best quarterfinal night of all time: 3-3 Real Madrid and 2-2 Bayern. But the big controversy here is Saka rounding Neuer and getting touched. And I thought this was an interesting conversation because I was listening to Talk Sport about this, and a lot of the ex-players were my view of this, where I thought, if you're looking for it, right, why aren't we going round the keeper? Because it was a simple go round the keeper. Yeah. And I was thinking, if that's Messi, if that's Ronaldo, they ain't taking the chance on getting the clip. They're rounding the keeper, flicking it in the back of the net, and winning the game for their club. And our players, because I look at Jack Grealish, clever. He knows when to go down and when to not. And I don't think Grealish would have gone down there.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bugbear of mine. I like to see the players. Look, I can understand why they do it, because a referee is not going to give a penalty until he sees the player go down, which there lies the problem. So I think the referees need to be better at, and I'm not talking VAR here because I don't want that shit in there, but I'm talking the referees need to be better at, hey, he's been clipped. I'm going to hold the whistle. He's been clipped. See what happens. And if he misses the goal or whatever, then penalty, or whatever. Or if he, I don't know, but going down like that, you've got to be better at finish the play first, then worry about the decision afterwards. I think that needs to be the message. I'm always big on keeping your feet.
It's interesting because I was listening, and one of the arguments was the Elliott penalty against United, which, and I think if Elliott's honest, he's looked for that penalty, but I think that's a cast iron penalty Do you know what I mean? The defender, Wan-Bissaka's left his leg trailing. If you're leaving your leg trailing, you're asking for a penalty. So I don't mind it. But for me, when I watch the Saka thing, he's too good of a player, in my opinion, to do that. Like, I look at Saka, they call him Star Boy. Like, he is. I'd never use the phrase world class because I think we're going a bit too far when we say that. Yeah. But I think he is that class below world class. And for me, to go to world class, he rounds the keeper, he slides it back in the net, he runs over to his fans, and he wins a game for Arsenal.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree 100%. You know, as growing up playing, 2 decades of this sport as a centre back, the first thing you always got taught is you keep your feet, whether it's as an attacker, as a centre back. You look at Wan-Bissaka, don't go down. You just keep your feet in the box, keep your feet. If the player's good enough to get around you, they're good enough to get around you, but don't give him a reason. All my coaches and all that used to always say, don't give him a reason. Don't give the ref a reason. It's like any sport, any type of defending, just do not give the official a reason to give a penalty or call it against you. If they're good enough, they're good enough. And I think Saka, hopefully for his sake, for England's sake, he learned a bit of a valuable lesson and say, well, I've got to, because you don't want him doing that in the Euros.
Mate, don't get me wrong as well. And I love this from Marcus. Like, this is good because like me and my wife were hotly talking about this because like I said, I don't want to sound a hypocrite, but if he goes down and gets a penalty for England, I'm going to be running around the streets naked, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. But I was trying to think of it as a neutral fan who I'm supporting him. I would feel like Marcus, like, just go around. Just go around him. Do you know what I mean? Like, and if he's trying to get around him and gets clipped, okay, there's a penalty. But I looked at that and I'm with Tim. It was almost like he was trying to play the percentages because it's not a natural way he touches him. Like, Neuer's come out, but people are getting a grey area of saying, oh, Saka's travelling too quick to stop. And I'm like, watch Saka play. He can turn on a sixpence at 40 kilometres an hour. Like, he didn't have to do that. And I think if Saka looks back, he will say, just round the keeper, slot it in.
Yeah, and I look at it as well and expanding on that too with the VAR stuff and how the offsides, the assistant referees are keeping their flags down until the play's finished. I think the messaging from the managers has been, we're telling our players to finish the play. Even if you think you've given a foul, even if you think you're offside, just finish the play. You never know. And I think this is the same thing. So my message would be, just finish the play. Just finish your goal. Like, your goal needs to be scoring the goal. Like, that has to be your purpose. Finish the play. Don't try and get a penalty. Don't try and, all this stuff. VAR is there. You're a big club. VAR will look after you. That's what they do. So I think finish the play. The message is no different.
Mate, did anyone see as well while we're here the Gabriel?
The pickup.
Raya, the goal kick's taken. He just randomly picks it up and kicks it back.
Yeah. It was bizarre.
Did you hear the official reasoning that the referee has come out and said he's just a kid? I didn't want to put that on him in such a big game.
Is that what they said?
So the referee has literally come out and officially said he's made a mistake. Tuchel touched on it because in the official referee's report, he's just a young kid. There was no advantage gained. I didn't want to call a penalty there because he's a young kid doing a childish mistake.
Weird.
Like,
I'm sorry, what?
I don't like Arsenal. Good night, Tim. Much love, my friend. I don't like Arsenal, but fuck me. Like, if Arsenal go out, like, do you know what I mean? Like, if that had happened to Arsenal and they go out and Bayern go out by, let's just say it's they win 1-0.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd be seething, wouldn't you, with that excuse?
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I don't like that. I think that's a weird one. It's the quarterfinals of the Champions League. But he's a young lad who made a mistake. Is he even that young? I don't know. Like it's.
Well, I mean, that's like saying to me, like, where do you draw the line? If the referee has got that much say, where do you draw the line? Late tackle in the box, do you not give it a penalty because he's a 19, 18-year-old?
Yeah, no. If you're good enough to be playing in the quarterfinal of a Champions League, then you're good enough to know the rules and to have to abide by said rules. Surely.
One of, like, honestly, like I know I mean, I'm a bit like Faz. I don't mind sticking it into Arsenal, but I looked at that and I was like, oh, that is a grey area, isn't it?
I'm not even sure it's that grey, to be honest.
I mean a grey area with a ref making that decision based on your age.
Yeah. Yeah, that was just weird. Yeah.
But yeah, that was the official statement. But we talked about Euros, and while I've got Faz here, I was actually watching West Ham superfan, not you, Faz, Danny Dyer.
Ah, yes.
Right? And Danny Dyer was having a big rant just before the Euros, and I thought this was a great conversation to have with you about Bakary Saka and Jared Bowen.
Yes.
In Danny Dyer's opinion, Bowen's a better player, and his reasoning was he's stronger, he's a better finisher, he can play across the front three, and Saka only plays on the wing, and he's feeding off scraps as opposed to being drip-fed quality balls by world-class midfielders. And in his opinion, he was like, if Saka's world-class, Bowen is GOAT status, because his opinion, pound for pound, he'd have Bowen every day. Now, I know you're biased. I know that I'm biased, but I actually thought we had this conversation. Why doesn't Bowen start for England? Then he went and scored. Is it a point? Is Bowen suffering from playing for an unsexy football club?
Yes. Put it simply, yes. I mean, it is a very tricky one. He's Jared Bowen's father-in-law and a West Ham fanatic. So obviously he's got to defend him. Obviously, I'm a West Ham fan. But no, the facts are, I deal in facts here. Saka, beautiful player. That's what he is. He's a beautiful player. He's playing for one of the best teams in Europe. He's fast. He's skillful. He's out wide. But under a Southgate team, they're not playing fast, sexy, attractive football. So the argument needs to be turned a little bit so people don't come at me saying, oh, West Ham bias. Is not an argument of who's a better player. It's who's going to fit better into that system. And the fact is, you're right. Jared Bowen is stronger. He can play across all left, right, central, and as a striker. Like he plays as a striker for West Ham. So if you want to do that, you can. They won't do that for England. But he can play across the front four. No player tracks back better as a right winger than Jared Bowen defensively, right? So he's got that in his locker. And I think the feeding off the scraps, I think, is the best one, because that's what he does. He's a fighter. And when you're in the Euros in a big tournament, you want a Jared Bowen, because he'll treat every England shirt like it's the last shirt he's ever going to get. Where Saka knows he's in the England squad no matter what he does. No matter what he does, he's in the England squad. Jared Bowen will fight. He will scratch. He will bite. He will rip people apart because he wants to keep that England shirt. We saw it when he came to West Ham. West Ham signed him from Hull. He treated every start he got for West Ham like it was his last day on earth, because this was his opportunity in the Premier League. And now he's an established player. He's going to do the same thing for England. Is he a better player? Yeah. But you're probably taking Saka because of his age, because of, his attributes. Who do I want starting for England in the Euros? Jared Bowen, hands down. He's one of the first names on the team sheet that I would have in a big European game. He scores in big games. He scores in big games. I mean, he scored the winner in West Ham's European win. Like,
it's such an interesting conversation because I always come back to this. Like, my pop, who like raised me on football, he always used to have this conversation to me when judging a player. Put him at bottom of the league.
Yes.
Right. And then put him at the top of the league and then keep him where he is. Can he replicate it? And I would say, I think Saka is a game-changing player. Like, I think the one thing he has on Bowen is I think he's got the lightning pace. And I think at international level, that changes games. Like, regardless of everything else, 5 minutes to go against France, I think Saka's got that pace to trouble
perfect
you.
sub. He's the perfect substitution. Get Bowen to do all the dirty work and Saka to come on. And on your point, what you're saying is, this is what I'm talking about. He started at Hereford, went to Hull, now at West Ham. That's a fighter. And I know this other player, he's very polarizing, but Harry Maguire, Hull, Leicester, United, like that's a fighter. That's a guy who's earned every single cap he's got because he's fought. Declan Rice, delisted by Chelsea, comes to West Ham, had to play in West Ham's youth as a centre-back, comes in, was this close from being delisted from West Ham. I know that for a fact until he played one game out of his skin and all of a sudden, okay, the rest is history. He's a fighter. Not saying Saka's not, but when you have gone through a system, it's hard to know what else, what you'd be like elsewhere. If you swapped Saka and Bowen, if Saka was playing for West Ham and Bowen was playing for Arsenal, Bowen would be as good as Saka's been for Arsenal this year. But I don't know if Saka would be as good as what Bowen has been for West Ham. That makes sense.
That was my point. I put Saka in my mind watching West Ham, right? And I think he might score more. I'll go as far to say that long ball, I think Saka would feast on. But then I don't think he would be able to track back and kick a lump out of a player, which when I watch West Ham play, it's very physical. It's very, very physical. Down both flanks, like even as sexy as Paqueta is and as sexy as Kudus is, both of them are quite physical as well. Like that, they're not shy of a dust-up, even though they're technically gifted. I would go as far to say that I think Saka falls into the category of me of glam footballer, that in an elite team, insane.
Oh, absolutely.
But could I see him West Ham relegation battle?
No.
Do you know what I mean? Everton pissing down with rain at Goodison Park, chasing long balls fruitless. I don't quite see it.
Nah, me neither. And look, and it's and people can go back and they'll cut this and they'll say, look at this idiot saying this. Like I said, it's a healthy conversation about what you're looking for. And if England were playing a real attractive brand of football like what Arsenal do, then Saka, mate, awesome. But I like the idea of Jarrod Bowen doing the dirty work. Run yourself into the ground for 75 minutes, which he will. Then you bring Saka on to just where Bowen's beaten up on the left back. Bring on Saka, and he's like, "Thank you, partnership, mate. That's what it's all about."
But mate, I've got to say, no, I'm a big Bowen fan. But with the Euros coming up, Faz, who are you going with early? Who's bringing the Euros on? Bearing in mind it is in Germany as well, so.
Yeah. Look, it's hard to look past the French. You can never, I don't know, I can never look past them. Obviously, everyone will want to say England. Everyone will want a piece of them. Look, I think we're looking at France going. France, Italy, but I'm looking at France. I think they're, I think it's once again the Mbappe who'll just take the piss and we'll see what happens. But if I had to guess, I'd say Germany will go deep because, it's at home and they're a good team, obviously. So I'm saying Germany, France, but I think England will at least get to the quarters. You'd want them to get to the semis.
They should do. I think the style of play might go against them. I think when you look at it, and the team, I hate to say it, Germany, I just think under Nagelsmann, that looks like old Germany. It looks like Tony Cruz coming out of retirement has stabilized them down in that central position, which they were struggling with. They look ominous. And then I'm thinking home crowd, expectation. They're going to be tough to beat, the Germans.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Germany or France, but I think you're going to be hard pressed at home. They are a very, very vocal country. Love watching the German fans in the Bundesliga and stuff. It's going to be exciting. The fact it's in Germany is going to be, they're going to have a second game off the pitch just watching the crowds, I reckon.
Yeah, and I might never watch football again if I have to watch the Germans lift a title, to be honest. But that comes on to the next thing. Ange Postecoglou, I thought, gave the best press conference I have ever heard when he was asked about Champions League football and how it would boost the coffers of Tottenham and improve their fortunes on and off the field. To which Ange fired back, saying, did it help Newcastle? And then doubled down even further to say, at the end of the season, I'm not judged by the balance sheet. I'm judged by wins and losses. And I thought this was a very interesting one because everyone talks about European football. We've seen a few teams this year. Fulham, do you know what I mean, made Europe. They're having a hell of a season. Newcastle made Europe. They're having a hell of a season as well. I know they're having injuries, but again, Europe adds an extra 20 games to your calendar.
West Ham last season.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? West Ham last season. But I would say, is Europe as big as people make out in the terms of it's bringing in better caliber players and helps you? Because I would use you as an example. Has West Ham brought in any players that wouldn't come to West Ham if you didn't have European football? Because I think Kudus would have come anyway. West Ham's an improvement to Eredivisie.
So players that have come in since West Ham in the last 3 seasons, you're looking at Paquetá, Kudus, Alvarez.
What about since you European champions?
So Kudus and Alvarez, they've come in. But Declan Rice left, so obviously it's not that big of a pool. I listened to that press conference and I really liked it, and it did give me a lot of time to reflect. And I honestly think European football is for the fans. Because I looked at the money West Ham got for winning the Europa Conference, and it wasn't even enough to pay a week's wage. Like, for the club, that's the prize money, or something like that. Like, it was something. By the end of it, I think totaled up, it ended up being £12 million in total from the first game to the end. They got in prize money, that's nothing. So you add on top of flights, accommodations, extra game load. You had got to have bigger squads. I'd be shocked if there weren't some owners who'd be thinking, geez, European football is not something that we're ready for, that we want. But as a fan, this has been the 3 years in dreamland. I actually get a bit emotional talking about how great these 3 years have been. Just to have West Ham in Europe. So from the fans' perspective, I think it's the greatest thing on the planet for your team to be competing, for supporting a team who never gets to do this. So you're looking at, Arsenal and Man City and all that, who are constantly in it. Those fans might be looking at me saying, "Oh, what are you talking about? You played in your conference in your Europa," but we never get to do that. Do you want to do it every season? Absolutely not. I think last season I remember saying, this is maybe one too many now. We finished just out of the relegation. We won the conference, and now we're having an all right season. But I actually wouldn't be too disheartened to have a season out of Europe, re-establish, rebuild, reset, set the table. But I love seeing your teams like your Villas, your Brightons, these teams who never get to do this stuff, do it. On the flip side, I agree with Ange. You know, it's a freaking nightmare. You know, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday for ages. You know, if you've got a small squad, which a lot of these teams do, or you're getting bulk injuries like Newcastle have, you are screwed on all fronts. Screwed on all fronts. And then the management, you know, I use West Ham, you know, they have to decide whether the Wolves game, all right, we need to win the Wolves games because we want to try and get into European football next season. So you got Antonio who played, Jared Bowen who played, and now we've got Bowen's injured, right? Antonio played 90 minutes against Tottenham, then couldn't get on the park for the first 45 against Wolves because we're trying to get points there. You come to the big game against Bayer Leverkusen and Jared Bowen's injured. So what's the point now? So I see it from that perspective of, fuck, man, these European games are causing us a hectic schedule as far as the group stages go. But when you start getting into the round of 16, quarterfinals, I think it's a bit tastier then. But definitely that start of the season where it is bang, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday for a big chunk. Then you got international breaks where if you are playing European football, majority of your players end up on international break as well. So they're not actually getting a break. And I think from a West Ham perspective, that was the biggest thing that we saw the last couple of seasons is we'd have one or two players go on international duty. The whole squad now goes because they're recognized. And that's a fucking killer because they come back. Edson Alvarez, one of our most important players, plays for Mexico. He's got to fly the other side of the world, come back Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday. It's bedlam. So I can understand where Ange is coming from his perspective.
I think it's really interesting because you look this year, like Brighton, Newcastle, Fulham, they've all had disappointing seasons. Brighton and Newcastle, okay, they've had injuries coming out of their ears. Like, do you know what I mean? They've struggled. But again, is it worth it? Like, because if you don't win it, you don't play in it again unless you get the table position.
Yeah.
And like you look at Newcastle, the injuries, but like 8th is a disaster.
It is. They're going to go from Champions League football to potentially no European football. I keep referring back to West Ham, same thing. Last season, we finished 15th or something, but because we won the European Conference, we go into the Europa League. And now I suspect we might just miss out on one of the European spots. Do I want West Ham to win the Europa League? Abso-freaking-lutely, man. I've got a spot on my leg ready for another tattoo of it. Absolutely, I want them to win. Do I want West Ham playing Champions League football? Dream come true. You know, that's be more special than my firstborn, right? Do I think West Ham are ready for Champions League football? Abso-fucking-lutely not. So there's all these balls being juggled in the air of what's going on, of what you want. Disaster for Newcastle because of the finances they've spent. Teams like Brighton, is it a disaster for them? Probably not if they miss out on it. Aston Villa will probably are one of the teams who should win the Conference League, but then they'll want a Champions League. It's messy, but the one certainty and the one constant that needs to be reminded of these clubs is you need to invest in your squad. If you're just going to make European football, you just can't have a small squad. You have to invest. You have to have players who are willing to miss out on games to keep your squad fresh and happy. West Ham had that, and then all of a sudden, Sayed Benrahma and Pablo Fornals got sick of fucking sitting on the bench, so they left. West Ham squad shattered, because these players were sick of sitting on the bench. Thilo Kehrer. We had 3 players who all played in the European win last season. Come January, all wanted to leave because they were sick of the rotation of the squad. They just want to play 90 minutes every week. So what do the players want? What do the players want?
It's one of the interesting things I think, and that's a real smart comment by you, Faz, that I think people will overlook. It's all well and good being in Europe, and it's all well and good bringing in 10 players, but a lot of these clubs gain their success by having a core group of 20 players.
Yes.
Suddenly the core group's 30, and then you're juggling 30 personalities. They all want to play, and that creates a new problem.
Yeah. David Moyes always said he prefers working with a smaller squad. Graham Potter always said he preferred working with a smaller squad. Then he gets the Chelsea job and he had 50 blokes at training. But that's the point. And all of a sudden, you can't have a small squad in Europe. Players get unhappy. It's the Harry Kane phenomenon that I talk about all the time. Tottenham could never sign another striker whilst they had Harry Kane because no striker is going to want to go to Tottenham to sit on the bench. And that's what happens to these European teams. No player is really going to want to sign for Brighton to sit on the bench because of, oh, no, yeah, rotation, everyone's happy. It's the Raya Ramsdale conversation. All these Arsenal fans thinking, oh, no, it's all happy days. Raya and Ramsdale are happy to rotate. Yeah, we'll see how long for. Blokes just want to play 90 minutes of football.
Mate, spot on. I mean, people forget as well, like, it's tough. Squad management is tough. And
it's the hardest thing.
See it with West Ham. Like you say, the two players you've mentioned, Ben Rama and stuff. West Ham isn't a glamorous club, but people want to play. Like, I think this is the thing that I think sometimes fans forget. Footballers want to play first and foremost. They don't fabricate injuries. They don't pull out of games ad hoc. 90% of them want to play football 24/7 every game.
Yeah. And these players come from overseas leagues to play in the Premier League. That's the draw card. So I'll use Mohamed Kudus as an example. Him coming to West Ham, he's going to get European football at Ajax just because of the way that league is and the way the draws are. He'll play. He's played more European games than anyone at West Ham, but he comes to West Ham because he's playing in the Premier League. Now, you're saying if you're the manager saying, hey, come to West Ham and you're going to play European football, you'd be like, no. I'm coming to West Ham because I want to play in the Premier League. So we saw that with, again, Pablo Fornals and Sayed Benrahma. They want to play Premier League football. Now, obviously, they've gone to lower leagues, but sitting on the bench and then saying, hey, we'll give you 90 minutes against Genk. We'll give you 90 minutes against Shakhtar Donetsk or whatever. Well, they can get that going to play at Lyon or they can go to play, Real Betis or whoever they've gone to. They can get that. But to play in the Premier League, that's the draw card for these teams. So you talk about, is European football good for these teams? Do you get these better players? I actually kind of almost changed my opinion mid-conversation because I think the draw card is the Premier League, not playing. Lucas Paquetá, he was getting European football at it was in Lyon. So why come to West Ham for European football? No, he came because he wanted to play in the Premier League. And I think that is the draw card. So your Brightons, your Villas, all these teams, your Fulhams, when you get European football, you have to remember the draw card is still, we are a Premier League club first, European football club second.
Mate, spot on. I think people do forget as well. Like, it's a huge... The Premier League is the biggest league in the world. Like, yeah, I know it sounds arrogant, but for me, this is it. Like, everyone wants to play in the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Talking about Premier League bias, this is more for your benefit, but I've seen a lot of people diss West Ham, who are about to embark on the only team in Europe that is undefeated, and that is Bayern Leverkusen. You've got them in 24 hours, Faz. Massive game. And I think people are downplaying them because there's been a few I've seen a few comments, not just on Twitter in Australia, but worldwide. People saying it's a Mickey Mouse comp. Like they said the conference was, now it's the Europa. I still remember when the UEFA Cup was quite a big thing to go alongside the Champions League. But what I think it's mindless to say the form team in Europe isn't the team you're about to face.
Look, we're not talking about an undefeated team from the Danish third division, right? Because someone tried to come at me with that. Oh, they're not the only undefeated team in Europe. There's some team with 16 syllables in their name playing Austrian 7th league. The fact is they're in one of the big European leagues, and they haven't lost for 41 games, undefeated in the season. And I did make the post on my Twitter saying West Ham are embarking on the toughest test in world football. And of course, I knew what I was doing when I posted, because I had what do you mean? Oh, Bayern Munich, this and that. Arsenal going to Bayern Munich. I said, yeah, and Bayer Leverkusen beat Bayern Munich. So I don't know what you're talking about. Like, it is the toughest test in world football is Bayer Leverkusen away. That's a fact. And that's what West Ham are facing at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Our time, 5 a.m. our time, Australia. And yeah, I think the respect is not there. And you and I had this conversation a couple of days ago saying, list me all the undefeated teams. You had your Arsenal Invincibles. Well, in my opinion, in what people are calling a one-team league with Bayern Munich, being invincible in a one-team league is far more impressive than being in. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
being invincible in a league that's got Bayern Munich in it is that far outranks any type of successful season that anyone's had.
You know what? It's that results-led analysis as well, because suddenly now people look at Bayer Leverkusen and they go that tangent. Oh, they're stars, though. They've got a good team. But let's be honest. Look at the Bayern Leverkusen side. It wasn't a great side until it did this. Like, there's your Frimpong. There's your Wirtz, who are killing it at the moment. But let's be honest. This time last year, you wouldn't have got excited to hear you're linked with Wirtz. You'd be like, oh, okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, okay. Another German.
Yeah, no, another German. And look, I understand the way I explained it. I probably twisted myself up a little bit. Obviously, yeah, being invincible in the Premier League, there's more harder teams that you've got to beat. But I think with Bayern Munich are that much better than any other team in the league, the fact that you're so many points clear of them is insane. It's just unheard of. They got the world's best striker into a team that have won how many leagues in a row? Like, and the players they've got. So that I know I muddled my words a bit. What I'm trying to say is, but I think the respect of an unbeaten team in Germany, why it doesn't get it, it's because it's in Germany, right? That's why everyone's given it. But look at the players, like you said. The players there are like, I've even seen West Ham fans post it. Oh, we'll do them. Look at their players. Look at their players. We'll do them. But I'm like, no one's done them for 41 games. Like, it's bizarre. So that Alonso man, he knows what he's doing.
Mate, I'll say this as well. Not many people are linked with the Real Madrid, the Bayern, and the Liverpool job in such a short space of time. Like, it shows where they are. Like what they're doing. Like the Invincibles at Arsenal. Like, fair play. Full credit to Arsenal doing that. I remember that season. I take the piss because 90% of it was a draw. Does it really count? But it's an incredible feat, an incredible achievement. But I will say this. You've got to pay the respect when another side does it, because that's hard, Yacker. And, Danish leagues, Mickey Mouse leagues, the Bundesliga is top 3 in the world.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's the Carlton Collingwood all over again. The Collingwood win their 16th flag, and the Carlton supporters saying, "Yeah, but we did it first." No one gives a shit. It's the same. The Arsenal fans are jumping on, trying to downplay this Bayer Leverkusen season. I'm like, you can't downplay it. It's an enormous season, and they are, as we sit here right now, the best team in Europe. They have to be. I don't know how you can say otherwise.
Mate, I'm in agreement. I mean, I'll go a step further. I think Arsenal winning at Olympiastadion next week won't be as big if you guys get past Leverkusen. I think if you get past Leverkusen, for me, that's twice as big.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. If I'd bite your arm off to lose 1-0 tomorrow morning, or to have it lose by a goal, to have it still in our hands for the return leg. But if we were able to get a draw, or God forbid, get a result, like get a win, that's almost big. That's almost one of the biggest wins in the club's history, because of just what it means, and what's it, with Bayer Leverkusen being who they are.
Mate, I love it. Good luck, Faz, as well. Good luck. From a United fan, we've got nothing to look forward to here at United. We've got Coventry. That's about it coming up. But then we have a look and we see that we face Chelsea or City in the final. So the excitement soon cedes. But Faz, as always, a pleasure to join us. You guys in the chat, you've been brilliant. We will see you next week, where we'll cover more football. Ooh. And hopefully we'll have an answer of who will win the title. But thanks very much, everyone. Look after yourselves, and see you soon.
Love your work. See you guys.